Morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. We are an intentionally welcoming congregation open to people of all backgrounds, races, genders, sexual orientations, and disabilities, seen and unseen. At UUCA, we encourage people to come for community, find inspiration, and live with purpose together. My name is Christine Hauser, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Today is Sunday, June 11, and whether this is your first time worshiping with us or this is your regular Sunday routine, we're glad you're here. Today is a special Sunday because it's our annual meeting. Last year, we held our annual meeting in a hybrid format, and it was so successful that we're doing that again this year. You are welcome to attend in person, but we will also be streaming over YouTube and will be able to receive comments and questions through that site. So if you're not comfortable with in-person events or you just prefer to remain at home, you should still be able to access, listen, and participate in the discussion. The only thing you won't get at home is the delicious food our neighbors from Buckingham are bringing for sale after the service. You will see them in the fellowship hall, and as always, you will need cash to purchase the food. Now I have a special announcement on behalf of Voice. Voice has organized a gathering of people who are going to take a bus to Triangle, Virginia, to lobby on behalf of youth, a crisis center for youth, or a center for youth in mental health crisis. We have promised to have 100 participants, so we urge you to visit the table in the back after the service and sign up so that we can meet our commitment for 100 participants. On a personal note, if I may, this is my last day as a member of the board. After retiring last June, I left for Canada to help my daughter with my grandchildren, ages 9 and 11. Most Sundays, I participate online, thanks to those who manage our technology and make remote attendance possible. It has been an honor to serve on the board and get to know other board members and our outstanding ministers. UUCA is fortunate to have such wise, compassionate leadership. Although I will not be here in person, I will continue to attend online and in person when I travel to Arlington. Thank you for being here, whether you're in the sanctuary, in the center, or online. Welcome.
Thank you so much for that welcome, and thank you for your service on the board. It is, it really makes you realize how important those cameras are and our amazing AV staff and volunteers when we hear stories like yours, that you're able to stay in the community even as you live afar. Thank you as well, Jesse, for that beautiful, where'd Jesse go? For that beautiful organ introduction. I feel gathered. And I am glad to be gathered with all, oh yeah, sure. And I am glad to be gathered with all of you. I want to invite you to turn to each other now to say hello this morning, especially to someone who's new to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Lynn. Good morning, G, good to see you. Good morning, oh, I love you. My friends, I invite you to find your seats again. It is good to be together, and it is good today to be joined. Rev CTC and I are going to be joined up here on the chancel by two folks. You can see that Marietta Tanner is already with us. She'll be sharing a little bit more later in the service for our 75th anniversary testimonial. And we're also welcoming up on the chancel Cassie Ellsberg. Cassie is a graduating senior here at UUCA, and she has spent the last almost 1 month now serving her senior experience at UUCA. So she's been learning about how everything works at UUCA. She has been indispensable in the office. We're trying to convince her she doesn't really need to go to college in the fall. She could just stay. But in fact, she's heading off to the University of Iowa. So we're so glad to have Cassie with us these weeks in the office. It's really, truly been a joy and an honor for the staff. And I'm so pleased that she's going to be able to share with you a little bit on the chancel as well this morning. Our call to worship this morning comes from Reverend Andy Pakula, a Unitarian Universalist minister who for many years served our congregation in London, England. Come into this circle of community. Come into this sacred space. Come into this circle of community. Come into this sacred space. Be not tentative. Bring your whole self. Bring the joy that makes your heart sing. Bring your kindness and your compassion. Bring also your sorrow and your pain. Bring your brokenness and your disappointments. Spirit of love and mystery, help us to recognize the spark of the divine that resides within each of us. May we know the joy of wholeness. May we know the joy of being together. Let us worship.
I light our candle of compassion this morning, thinking of several different things. Those living through the pain and the brutality of war in Ukraine and in other countries around the globe. Those who live authentically as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, non-binary, gender variant, or queer, who know every single day they are amidst people who are not always accepting of who they are. I light this candle for all of us who have been broken and bruised by the world, but who still hold on to hope, to joy, and to compassion.
We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to join us in singing hymn number 6 in the Gray Hymnal.
You're welcome. One of the most meaningful things that we do in this space, in our sanctuary, is welcome new members to UUCA. This morning, we are fortunate and happy to welcome 2 new people to our tribe. Will the new members please come forward? You're welcome.
Those who are joining today are Jennifer Obermeyer. Maybe give a little wave. Give a little wave.
Right.
And Kathy Dwyer Southern. There we go. Now you know which is which.
Why don't you come here? Thank you.
Oh, yes. Come on up, Emerson
Oh,
Grace. For
Please
sure.
join us.
100%. And Emerson.
Is there more? Oh, that's too bad. Today, we are welcoming new members to our community, to our tribe. They're entering this collective with hope and possibility in their hearts, promising to participate in and support the ministries of this church. These new members are Jennifer and Kathy, and we have a helper. And we have a board member with us, too, to make sure the welcome is full circle. Today, each of you has chosen to embrace the spirit of love, welcome, and understanding that flows through our church. It is my hope that UUCA becomes a beacon of light that illuminates your pathway through life. We welcome you to this community, and we join you in this faith.
Ours is a free church. We have no creeds. Know that you are encouraged to bring your ideas and beliefs to this community to share with others. I invite you to join with us in the religious search for meaning and purpose in life, informed by our individual beliefs and the traditions of Unitarian Universalism.
Will the members of the congregation please rise, embody your spirit, and respond with the printed words in your order of service? In one voice, please. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves. We seek to be open and inclusive and will respect your inherent dignity, your eyes, and your vision. In times when it is easy and in times when it is difficult. And our new members, please.
We join this church freely and willingly. We accept your welcome and support with gratitude. Thank you for reaching out to us with your open hearts and open lives.
Knowing that we may not always live up to our ideals, we ask that you recognize this community's humanity. And when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us as we continue to carry the spirit of love.
We welcome you as equal members of this congregation, of this faith, and as partners on our shared spiritual journey. And the best part, with great joy, we welcome you as new members of our community. As you leave the chancel, we want you all to sign the book, but mostly we want you to remember this moment with love. Thank you for joining us.
Do you have the book?
No.
Do you have the book?
And we have a token of
You want to
appreciation.
pick out a color? Which color do you want to take home? Emerson blue? Blue. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
One more.
Would you like to pick out your color too?
You guys can go down.
There's blue, there's green. Oh, that's yellow. Wonderful.
You know what? We're in this together. You bet. I ask you all to take a breath in and let that out. Are we
As
praying?
we sing our children to their classes.
Oh, we're going to sing them to the classes?
Indeed, yes.
But they weren't up here for a story.
They weren't, but they were here for the new members.
We're going to
so-
sing them to their classes. Thank you. And then we're going to pray, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Peace to you on your way. May you grow in love each day. Meeting new friends and opening your mind to the wonders of the world you will find. To the wonders of the world you will find.
Now? Yes. So we're going to breathe again. Take a breath in. You can never breathe too much. That's right. Let it out. One more breath in and let that out. This morning's prayer is in the form of a blessing. I offer you the words of Andrea Hawkins Kemper. Blessed are we who gather with open hearts together in this space today. Blessed are we, the chalice lighters of resistance, justice, love, and faith. Blessed are we, the heretics, the outcasts, the walkers of our own way. Blessed are we, the border crossers, the refugees, the immigrants, the poor, the wanderers who are not truly lost. Blessed are we who transgress, who trespass, those who are passers-by, those who are cause takers. Blessed are we, the defiant, and blessed are we, the compliant. Blessed are we, the hand extenders, the sign makers, the protesters, the protectors. Blessed are we, the trans women, the trans men, the non-binary, the cisgendered, the multigendered, the no gender. Blessed are we, the friends, the strangers, the lonely, the hidden, the visible, the authentic. Blessed are we who rise in solidarity. Blessed are we who cannot rise. Blessed are we who rise only sometimes. Blessed are we, for this is our beloved community, and this is the space where we can each be exactly who we are. Amen.
Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Ours is a community that gives. UUCA members and friends share their time, their talent, and their treasure to help those on the margins and to make the world a better place. Every Sunday, we donate 70% of our collection to an organization that shares our values and that moves through its hands to change the world too. In June, UUCA is sharing the plate with Equality Virginia, EV. EV is the statewide nonpartisan advocacy organization leading the efforts of advocates across Virginia, protecting the inherent worth and dignity of all LGBTQIA people. UUCA has partnered with EV for more than 10 years, as they have shown us through training, through education, and direct engagement with our government, how we can help bend the arc towards justice for the LGBTQIA community here in Virginia. There are several ways you can give. We take checks in the plate. Please write offering on the memo line. You can go to uucava.org and click the donate button. You can go to PayPal and find UUCAVA there. You can text to 703-782-8239. And of course, we will take your cold hard cash. It is important that you give today and every Sunday. For what we take in, we are able to spread out into the world. And as I said, our goal is to make it a better, safer, more hopeful, more joyful place. Will the ushers please collect an offering?
Just your mic, I think.
I'll start again. We bless and receive these gifts, opening our hearts to true generosity, and in one voice. Let us be grateful when we give, be it time, talent, or treasure. Let us be grateful for our needs and the experience of vulnerability. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts to nurture this congregation. Thank you.
As we have celebrated our 75th year this year in 2023, we've been able to hear about some of the programs and ministries that have meant so much to people over the years here at UUCA. And I'm so pleased that Marietta Tanner is going to share with us a little bit about what she's done in other UU congregations as well, connecting us to our siblings, and what she's tried to build here at UUCA.
Good morning. I haven't been here for 75 years, but I often visited UUCA with my daughter, Stephanie Weber, before I moved to Falls Church and Goodwin House in 2016. I always stopped by the community action tables and was saddened to learn that there was not an active United Nations table among them. When I became a member, I met the chairperson, however, Bernie. Is he here today? Busy in the back room totaling some cash receipts. And he said it was one of his regular jobs. The UN, he said? Oh, yes. We have some people who are interested in it. But most of the people here feel that it's too political. It's difficult to recruit participants, he said. I countered, there must be plenty of former and current international service folks here, people who know what's going on abroad, how these matters affect us, and are knowledgeable about where you should stand on issues. He saw that I was ardent about this and looked at me askance and said, well, okay, let's work together on reviving UUNO here. I will give you all the materials. No problem, I said, I have them already. I had really had an active group at the Unitarian Society of Germantown in Philadelphia. And I'll just tell the folks in New York that I'm transferring my operation here. I forgot about all the years of work it took to get that program going. How few regulars I actually had, how I drove all over Philadelphia to neighborhood churches, universities, or group meetings to get their cooperation on issues before the United Nations. The focus of UUNO was youth, and still is, what's left of it. Its main annual event was the Intergenerational Spring Seminar, held in April. I had been attending for 18 years. The content was based on some UN issue, like LGBTQ+, climate change, arms proliferation, internecine warfare, suppression of women, issues that had repercussions that the envoys are the local church representatives. They studied these issues so they could bring them back to the congregation with new insight. At the seminar, envoys were able to hear speakers who had done research on the subject at the UN, delegates deeply affected by an issue that could speak to us in the United Nations building, and we'd be sitting in all the seats that the delegates had. Resolutions developed in the sessions by our conference units were presented to the UN General Assembly through our connection as an NGO. Now, an NGO is a non-governmental agency, but they have some rights in the General Assembly. For example, Bruce Knotts almost single-handedly, as director of UUNO, put the LGBTQ+ issue on the General Assembly agenda. His action brought the suffering of men and women in Uganda, notably because they were really murdering some LGBTQ people. Well, he brought that issue about Uganda and some other nations that were gay, lesbian, or transgender to the GA floor, garnering resolutions that have lessened the persecution of human beings so oppressed everywhere. When in Philadelphia, I used to take youth envoys to the seminar in New York, or preferably, I would have a younger person serve as a chaperone for those kids. The adolescents had a grand time practically running the show and going out to a night on the town in New York, and which they just loved because they'd take them out and they'd stay out very late and see some sights in New York. They met with other envoys from across the country and the debonair Canadians, who were really very interesting because Canada takes a lot of interest in the United Nations, and the kids learn about it in school. Their dedicated delegation usually made the things that we had, the advantages that we had at the United Nations, possible, because they would get the speakers and they spent a lot of money on us. At UUCA, I thought deeply about that operation and what it took to make it work. First of all, you had to have a youth director who would organize a group of kids that included some 13 to 18-year-olds. And I simply had to find among them somebody who was interested in being an envoy to assist me with yearly activities. We had to set up displays regularly about news from the UN, assist with programs like Green Sanctuary, and establish their direct connection to the climate change work that the United Nations was doing, keeping international bodies' importance before our congregation. We work with Sunday school kids for Trick or Treat, and we presented UN Sunday on October 24th, the UN's birthday. I was dedicated to finding connections in the city to keep the kids interested. So I belonged to UNA, the United Nations Association, that was funded by Ted Turner, so they had some resources also. They offered introductions to us with professors who ran programs at colleges and universities and invited my teens to hear them. Or they lent speakers for a green sanctuary, water quality, or mass incarceration seminars at the church. I insisted that these sessions had an international component that referenced the UN's role. My thought was I could transfer much of this activity to UUCA, only more efficiently, because here we were right in Washington, D.C., where so many of these things were taking place. But building a program from scratch was difficult. We had some moments of success, working with teens who had experience with Model UN, wanted to learn more, visiting religious education classes to talk about the UN, and participating in the UNICEF Trick or Treat program. UUCA is very generous to UNICEF, I must say. But my work never approached the level that I was able to create in Philadelphia. And now there are changes to the way the Unitarian Universalist Association, or UUA, is in relationship with the UN. They have closed the UUNO office that was across the street from the UN in the Church Center building. It was just a few steps to the marbled 5-language-enabled assembly rooms where diplomats debated earth-shaking issues. We have been subsumed under UUA and are no longer an independent entity. And now we are called the UU Office of the UN. But it's hardly that. Boston, that is the Boston agency, our agency, which is in Boston, held a seminar in April, which they called the Intergenerational, but envoys were not involved in its planning. It was in Minneapolis, not New York, and the George Floyd murder was the centerpiece. The subject was militarization, state-sanctioned violence, and police brutality. The keynote speaker was an opponent of prisons, and there was no mention of the United Nations in the agenda. The new director, Reverend Alicia R. Ford, stated that we were partnering with USC, that is the UU Service Committee, the UU Ministry for Earth, and several other in-house agencies. I wanted very much to go to General Assembly, but I'm not able to. There I hoped I would meet some former envoys, some of whom I knew, and they have vowed to gather in support of the 7 principles, with special emphasis on the 5th, and the idea of world community with liberty and justice for all, which they feel is not a part of the Article 2. I search for a shining star envoy who will replace me. I promise myself that I just must build a United Nations program here to last for the next 75 years, despite infirmity and the demon, old age.
I just want to thank Marietta so much, and I know you have expressed your gratitude as well for the many years of service, really to the larger Unitarian Universalist movement, as well as here in this congregation. So thank you for sharing that with us, Marietta. I appreciate it.
Move this up a little bit. Hi, everyone. I'm Cassie, and I'm excited to do our reading today. It's Messy and Imperfect Beloved Community by Lila Ibrahim. I have been going to the same church for nearly 30 years. I have filled a variety of leadership positions, from owl teacher to board president, usher coordinator, to stewardship co-chair. And in all those years, my congregation has had ample time to disappoint me. I am disappointed when people don't think my justice project is the one we should collectively work on. I am disappointed when people want different music than I do. I am disappointed when people don't think our RE program is the most important part of our church. I am disappointed that people don't give enough time, talent, or treasure to the church as I do. I am disappointed, well, you get the idea. In nearly 30 years of relationship, there have been lots of disappointments. 2 or 3 times over the year, I have been so disappointed that I seriously questioned remaining in my congregation. I have doubted its ability to provide the salvation of which we speak, a lived, beloved community. On those occasions, I have thought, screw it. I can just stop going to church for a while or forever. But staying away has never helped me through such times. Rather, coming in closer, telling people about my spiritual crisis, listening, sharing, caring, and worshiping have helped me know that this is where I belong, even when church is the source of my frustration and disappointment. Because we are not in church to be with people who want to sing the same music or rally for the same cause or attend the same retreats. We are in church to learn to love better. And this can only happen when we love past our disappointments and return to a place of acceptance and affirmation. This is true in our personal lives, in our work lives, and in our church lives. It's a deep spiritual practice. There is really only one choice: between imperfect community and no community. Again and again, we are called to choose to commit ourselves to building a more just, more diverse, and yet ever messy and imperfect beloved community. Thank you.
I feel particularly grateful this Sunday, although I think it is one of the things that church does especially well, to share the chancel with folks from different generations who are having in so many ways some of the same experiences over and over. Church, right? The work of church. I had planned a sermon for today about delighting in each other, about delighting in community. And I picked out that reading to go with the sermon because I think that sometimes it is difficult to find delight in each other in a congregation. It's especially true in June. Can I get an amen, Rev CTC? You know, all of the ministers are preparing to go to General Assembly, and we count down the time until the end of the church year. In fact, until the annual meeting, ours is in, 1 hour, and then it'll be over in 3 hours from now, not that, in a minute and a half, maybe. 2 Sundays. The truth is, actually, our annual meeting this Sunday is going to include history and storytelling. It's going to include a conversation about how we honor our history in the naming of our rooms in our building, how we tell the stories so that we can inspire our future. It's going to hold some award giving as we honor volunteers and recognize their service. Oh, we're going to talk about the budget, you know, we have to. But the truth is, I think our conversation is going to mostly be a beautiful one that holds our past and looks forward to our future. And so as I planned what I was going to say about imperfect community and how it is that we in a Unitarian Universalist congregation find our way together, I thought, you know what I really want to talk about is that thing I was going to do last Sunday when Greg shared his beautiful reflection, and Rev CTC and I decided it was so beautiful we weren't going to do the thing that we had planned because Greg's just finished us well. Do you remember that last Sunday? So I'm going to do a little bit of both. It's June, and you're just getting a mashup from me. Are you ready? We're going to be fine, right? Here's the first one. Here's what I really wanted to tell you as we talk about messy community, messy, imperfect, beloved community, and how we do this thing called church, and not just any church, right? But Unitarian Universalist church, which means a congregation where people believe differently from each other. They believe differently about the kind of justice work we should do, and they believe differently even about the whole shape of the universe, about God and who God is and what happens after you die. And somehow we bring all of those differences together and say we want to be one people with each other. How do we do that? And the thing I really wanted to say there was to invite you into a framework that has been helpful for me. You know, one of the annual Vision of Ministry goals for next year calls for this congregation to engage in more work around anti-racism and around cultural competence, learning about cultures different from our own, whatever that might be, so that we can more easily understand our own culture, understand other cultures, and communicate across difference. And all of those things are important. But the framework I wanted to invite you into today is the framework not of cultural competence, but instead of cultural humility, or maybe even cultural curiosity. Cultural humility is defined usually as the idea of a continual growth, understanding cultures different from your own, beginning with self-reflection about your own culture. The thing that I like about cultural humility versus cultural competence is that it doesn't imagine that we're going to reach some point at which, check mark, I'm now competent in all cultural experiences because I went to the right 4 trainings, right? That seems somewhat unlikely. Cultural humility instead invites us into an ongoing learning of each other's experiences and backgrounds. And cultural curiosity asks us to hold that learning, to hold it with a kind of delight, perhaps. To find in the learning, even when it challenges our own frameworks, our own understanding of the world, to find in the learning the joy of connection. How is it that you are different from me? What led you to think that way, to act that way? How can I learn about you and teach you about me, and how together can we learn to love? Just as Lila Ibrahim shared in the reading that Cassie offered us this morning. So that's really the core of what I wanted to say today, to invite you into a framework of cultural humility or cultural curiosity as we engage in this messy work of being church together. Do I have time for last week? Sure, why not? A little bit, because here's what I wanted to tell you about last week, and I think that in some ways the two go together. As you may recall, Greg shared with us last week some of his journey in his internship here at UUCA, his experiences of transformation, of growth, what he learned, and surely what he has taught us. When I was in seminary, we referred to many of those experiences as AFGEs, and I'm going to say that that stood for another fun growth experience, and you're going to know that that's actually not what the F was. Another fun growth experience. They seemed to come regularly in seminary as you were trying to find your way into ministry, to understand yourself more deeply so that you would be able to serve others. And you know, those growth experiences, they come when we engage in cultural curiosity as well, don't they? In fact, I have noticed that growth experiences do seem to occur all the way through life. Has anybody else picked up on that as well? It's almost as though we are not done growing when we graduate from high school, or when we get our first job, or when we live on our own, or even when we start a family or decide we don't want to, or travel the world, or any of the many things that we might think are the checklists of life, at which point surely we would be done with growth. And yet, unfortunately, it does seem that we have those fun growth experiences over and over again. And so there was another framework I wanted to invite you into as we think about what it means to be in the midst of growth, in the midst of change, as perhaps you find yourself today. This framework comes to us from William Bridges, who's the author of several books. The one that I'm most familiar with is simply called Transitions. Bridges describes transitions, change, as happening a little differently than we sometimes imagine them. We might think that growth goes like this. There's a beginning of something, and then there's a middle, and maybe that middle might be a little messy, sure, we're not sure, hopefully not too messy, and then there's an end, right? But instead, Bridges tells us, change really goes like this. There's an end of something. Then there's a middle, and then not until you're through that middle, which is very messy indeed, what he calls the transition zone, with an unclear happening. Only when you're through all that middle do you find what the beginning is going to be. Every time that I have in my life found myself in the midst of significant transition, I have utilized that framework of William Bridges, the end and then the transition zone, and only then the beginning. And I have found it helpful as I make my way through. And so maybe what I am hoping I can put in your toolbox today are these two frameworks combined together to help us as we as a congregation are finding our way through and in and with each other. An orientation of cultural curiosity and humility, a wondering about each other, a delighting in the ways that we are different, And when all of that gets messy and growy and uncomfortable and transition-y, a remembering that that must surely mean that something has ended and we are in the midst together, just waiting to see what the beginning might be. I hope that that framework may be helpful for us here as a congregation. Maybe it's helpful for you as an individual. It is surely helpful for me when I read the papers or watch the news and think about the kind of America and the kind of world that I see and the one that I hope to be part of building. That if I can hold curiosity and humility, and if I can tolerate the mess of the middle, there may yet be a beginning we are only just about able to see. There you go. 2 mini sermons combined into one. Do with it as you will. Put them in your toolbox. It's June. Oh, and we're gonna sing, and we're gonna sing. I invite you to rise in body and in spirit and join in singing hymn 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Oh, we don't have teal hymnals. I'll go get some. Yeah.
This morning, we are going to recognize those who serve our community on Sunday mornings, the Sunday ambassadors.
Our Sunday ambassadors are at the welcome desk when you come in. Our Sunday ambassadors check on the flowers around the building to make sure things are watered and just so. They serve as ushers, handing out programs, helping you find your seats, and receiving your gifts.
And they do a million other small and large things to make our Sunday morning experience special. If you are a Sunday ambassador, will you please rise in body or spirit? And don't be shy. Let's show our appreciation.
You know, I see out there as well coffee makers and
Yeah.
parking lot greeters who are outside, rain or shine,
Rain
to
or
make sure
shine.
we arrive safely. I see there all of the people who make this morning possible.
We could not do Sunday morning without volunteers, period. We would not have the experience that me and Rev. Amanda want to have. We would not be able to create the experience that you all come here for. Our Sunday ambassadors are amazing people, and the other volunteers who are here on Sunday are also amazing. To show our appreciation, as you all leave today, there is a token at the welcome desk. There's a small book. In no way, shape, or form is it enough. But that is what we would like to offer you as you leave the church this morning.
Thank you so much, Sunday ambassadors, for all you do to support the congregation. Yes, last Sunday I met a newcomer who said that she had a knack for finding places that were really great to be. And as soon as she came in the church, she knew this was one of them. So that is because of all of you.
Yes.
Thank you.
One more round of applause.
I promise it's the last time you guys have to see me. I've been up here a lot today. I keep coming back up. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light and the warmth it represents. These we carry with us, bringing our sparks of love to the world.
Friends, may you find that tools in your toolbox, as practical as they may be, help your heart to stay in a holy place, here in the messy, imperfect, beloved community that we create. May it be so.